Welcome. We just finished our discussion on the sprint backlog. Now it's time to talk about the commitment to the sprint backlog, which is the sprint goal. Todd's going to zoom us in and tell us the big swing thought for sprint goal, and then we're going to deep dive and break that down a bit.
Yeah, so, as in the product goal, which is a single longer term objective for the Scrum team, that's attached to the product backlog. Here in the sprint goal, or the sprint backlog, we have this commitment called a sprint goal, right? This is the single objective for the sprint, right? This is the thing that we're doing the sprint for. This is why we're spending money on this sprint. If this doesn't happen, right, then we have failed to fill our commitment, which could be okay. I shouldn't probably use the word fail there. You might learn something. But the single objective for the sprint that everybody on the Scrum team is going to focus to achieve.
Todd, what I'm hearing in that, aside from being a commitment, which it is, I'm also hearing focus.
Yeah.
In that discussion of the sprint goal. This is the focus of the sprint. Now, during the course of a sprint, we're going to have a number of product backlog items that we pulled into our sprint backlog. Not every one of those product backlog items on the sprint backlog has to relate to the sprint goal, but the ones that do, that's our focus. Right? That is our absolute focus, that we're going to make sure that those product backlog items that are there to help us achieve the sprint goal, that those are our primary, right? Because this is our focus. It's our objective. It's the value. This represents the value we're trying to deliver during a sprint, right? And in a sense, you could say, since it's the value, it's our connection back to a customer. It's how the Scrum team is connected to that customer need.
Yeah, and I'm just taking some notes here, Ryan. Connection to the customer, focus, value. Not all sprint backlog items need to be related to this. Here's an interesting add-on here. Developers keep this goal in mind while doing the work. Yep. We have things that happen day to day. A bug comes in, an interruption happens on something else that we need to work on. Remember, the sprint backlog is emergent, right? However, developers keep this in mind while they're doing the work. If there's ever anything that threatens the sprint goal, we need to make sure that the rest of the Scrum team is aware of it, and that's just new and better information for us to do our job, right? And then we have some decisions there, right? Do we abandon it? Do we continue forward? Do we cancel the sprint? So developers keep this in mind while they're doing the work, and this might be the focus of your daily Scrum, which we'll address in a later video.
What's interesting too, as we talked about, the sprint backlog is emergent. And as we make decisions about what's going to go in and out of the sprint backlog throughout a sprint, this sprint goal is of key importance. As we negotiate scope, as developers go back to the product owner and they say, hey, so we've learned some things need to change, that sprint goal is always front of mind. You cannot make a change during a sprint that would put a sprint goal in jeopardy. And so we're constantly watching to make sure that whatever decisions we make and however emergence plays out, that sprint goal stays intact.
Yeah, 100%. I like it, Ryan. Sprint goal. I don't know that I have anything else for this one. Do you?
I've got one more, Todd. We've got some basic rules on the sprint goal that I want to make sure that people consider as they're crafting good sprint goals.
Oh, yeah. Good ad.
I want to make sure that we're not getting a little crazy with codifying scope in a sprint goal. And what I mean is, if the word and or the word or ticket numbers start showing up in your sprint goals, you have not connected to a customer outcome.
Or commas, run-on sentences, right? We've seen all the tricks in the book.
So you want to avoid that. You're not trying to codify scope. You're not trying to put ticket numbers or anything like that in the sprint goal. You're connecting to that customer. So the sprint goal is outcome driven for a customer. Make sure you get there. Single objective for the sprint. Focus. It really helps us deliver value. Really important commitment to our sprint backlog. We hope you take some time to really dig in and create some great ones for your Scrum teams. The benefits are immense.
Yeah. And Scrum requires it. So, I'm going to ask the question now. Are you using sprint goals? If not, how do you get there? And if you are using sprint goals, do you have ands, ors, commas, ticket numbers, right? Talk to us. That's what we want to hear. That's kind of your homework as we've been adding and asking these questions. Comment under this section. And I think next, Ryan, we're going to talk about the increment.
Yeah, let's get down to the product and its delivery with the increment. We'll see you in the next video.